Dear Leo, my radiant soul of the zodiac, the fire that leads without needing permission, welcome home. Let me ask you something bold. What if the thing you whispered to the stars in your most private moment is finally on its way? You're not here by accident. The very fact that you found this video, at this precise moment in your life, means something bigger is at work. The universe has heard you. And now, it is responding with a gift that could shift your entire reality, a powerful blessing, the exact one you've been praying for. This is your divine timing. This is what alignment feels like. You see, Leo, you've been holding on. You've endured when it would have been easier to walk away. You've believed, even on the days when hope felt like a burden. And now something is shifting. You're not imagining it. That quiet vibration beneath the surface? That's the universe clearing the path. This is the season where your patience becomes power, and your faith becomes form. What you've prayed for is on its way. Maybe it's a breakthrough in your career. A long-awaited message. A new chapter in love. Or simply the deep inner peace that tells you, I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. Whatever it is, you called it in. Through every choice, every act of courage, every moment you didn't give up, you summoned this moment into being. And I just want to pause and say thank you. Thank you for being here, for showing up for your light, and for being part of this soul-driven community we're building together. Every like, every comment, every subscription to Eternal Mindfulness is more than support, it's an energetic agreement. You're saying yes to your growth, your awakening, your truth. So if your heart feels something stirring, if you sense that something sacred is unfolding, leave a comment below that says, I'm ready to receive what I prayed for. Let the universe see you declare it. Leo, you are not just receiving a blessing, you are becoming the version of yourself who knows how to hold it. So stay with me, all the way through this message, because what's about to be revealed is nothing short of spectacular. And now, my beloved Leo, tell me, what did you do to call this moment into your life today? Because trust me, you didn't come here by chance. You came here in perfect alignment. Let's dive in. This moment, dear Leo, is not just a coincidence in your timeline, it is a convergence. A convergence of energy, insight, and cosmic clarity that invites you to pause and truly feel what's shifting beneath the surface of your life. After all, when you begin to sense something changing within, it's often because something outside is aligning to meet you. And this week, the universe is humming a frequency that resonates directly with your essence. With the sun, your ruling light, moving through your 10th and 11th houses, there is a golden beam casting itself onto the landscapes of purpose, recognition, and collective belonging. This is more than just a weekly forecast. It's an invitation to finally see yourself clearly, not just as you've been, but as you're becoming. The 10th house whispers of legacy, the work that reflects who you are when no one is watching, and the 11th house stirs dreams that stretch beyond you, into communities, visions, and causes larger than the self. When these houses are illuminated, your desire to be seen, understood, and aligned with meaning becomes more than a longing, it becomes a call. Energetically, the number 11 is activated now, a gateway. Not a physical door, but a shift in perception. It's the kind of alignment that doesn't come from striving, but from softening. From listening inward. The presence of 11 speaks to an unseen path made visible only by the light of your intuition. In tandem, the number 7 moves quietly beneath it all. This is the vibration of introspection, of sacred discernment. It nudges you toward questions that live beneath the noise. What do I truly value? Am I choosing this life, or simply reacting to it? And then there's 19. This number, often overlooked, holds the subtle power of sovereignty. It asks not just for strength, but for radiant responsibility. Not the heavy kind, but the kind that says, I am willing to step into my light, even when it's uncomfortable. Even when it scares me to be this seen. This is the number of the sun itself, your celestial mirror. The tarot confirms this shift with 2 powerful archetypes, the sun and the Ace of Wands. The sun doesn't ask questions. It simply shines. It reveals what was hidden in shadow, not to judge, but to warm it back to life. When paired with the Ace of Wands spear fire, it signals a new ignition point. This isn't the kind of spark that demands external validation. It's the inner surge that happens when you say yes to what already lives inside you. But here's where it becomes truly rich, Leo. You are not being asked to push forward. You're being asked to unfold. Like a lotus rising from the mud, not by force, but by surrendering to the natural movement of light. There is a quiet wisdom in allowing things to bloom when they're ready, not when your mind says they should. The more you try to control the outcome, the more tightly you close the gates of abundance. But when you loosen your grip, when you trust that things are unfolding exactly as they should, you make space for grace to enter. So I gently invite you, open. Release the idea that you must earn this blessing, prove yourself worthy, or wait until everything is perfect. What if the only thing standing between you and the very thing you prayed for was your willingness to receive it? There is a lesson in non-attachment here, not to abandon your desires, but to hold them with open hands. The way a tree lets go of its leaves in autumn, not in fear of loss, but in trust of renewal. What you once called failure may, in hindsight, have been a redirection so precise, so sacred, that only now can you begin to see its grace. What if the closed door wasn't punishment, but preparation? What if this week isn't about chasing anything, but about letting what's meant for you find its way to your light? Let yourself shine, Leo. The world isn't waiting for perfection. It's waiting for your presence. You've already felt the spark building, Leo. That subtle yet undeniable inner shift. And now, the energy begins to solidify, taking root in the tangible realms of your work, money, and personal power. Where once you felt uncertain or suspended between options, a new opening is emerging, clear, direct, and glowing with potential. This isn't a moment for hesitation. It's a season of stepping forward, boldly, with the full weight of your fire-backed purpose. When the Ace of Pentacles arrives in your field, it doesn't just suggest opportunity, it plants it. A seed of something fresh, structured, and real. Whether this shows up as a job offer, a raise, a financial door swinging open, or a clear idea for a personal project, it carries the energy of grounded abundance. And when paired with the King of Wands, your elemental match in courage and command, it's no longer just about what is being offered to you. It's about how you choose to rise to meet it. This king doesn't wait for perfect timing, he creates it. He sees opportunity where others see risk, and he acts not out of impulse, but out of alignment. This week, you're being asked to embody that same energy. but not with frantic effort or control. Rather, with the kind of confidence that comes from inner stillness. From a knowing that you are already enough, and you are already ready. There's a subtle truth many overlook: opportunity rarely arrives when we feel fully prepared. It arrives when we've grown just enough to be stretched. And sometimes, the difference between missing a moment and owning it is simply whether or not we're willing to believe in the quiet strength of our own readiness. In the space of ancient wisdom, there is a phrase: when the conditions are ripe, the fruit will fall. What this teaches us is that effort is only half the path. The other half is spaciousness, trusting that what is meant to be yours cannot be taken, and that what passes was never the harvest, but the shell. When we act from desperation, we scatter our focus. But when we move from trust, every decision becomes sharper, simpler, and more rooted in truth. The numerology of this week amplifies this even further. The number 1 pulses with initiation, new cycles, fresh ideas, and unshaped potential. The number 8, however, brings in rhythm and responsibility. It reminds us that true abundance is not about fleeting wins, but about sustained flow, the kind that comes when purpose, vision, and action all align. And Leo, with your natural capacity to lead, to express, and to magnetize, this alignment is yours to claim. Let's also not forget the visual vibration around you. Gold invites recognition. Crimson awakens boldness. Emerald nourishes stability. Surround yourself with the tones of your own power this week. Wear them. Sit with them. Let your environment reflect what you are calling in. And if, as you're hearing this, something inside you whispers, "This is for me," don't brush it off. That's not just a feeling. That's guidance. That's your higher knowing recognizing a path it's already dreamed of. So take the next step. Don't delay. Make the call. Send the email. Apply. Say yes. Ask the question. Close the door. Whatever your action is, let it be a reflection of the future you are already stepping into. And if you feel that shift, if you know deep down that something real and meaningful is beginning, leave a comment right now. Universe, I am ready. Speak it aloud. Claim it. Because the moment you decide, everything begins to rearrange itself in your favor. Not by force, but by frequency. Not because you're lucky, but because you're aligned. After the stirring call to action you've just felt around career and abundance, Leo, the next rhythm your spirit is quietly craving is rest. Not the kind of rest that comes from collapsing at the end of a long day, but the conscious, nourishing kind, the kind that refills the well, not just patches the cracks. This moment in your journey is not just about momentum, it's about maintenance. Because even fire must learn when to flicker low to preserve its power. The Four of Swords gently steps in here, not as a warning, but as a wise guide. It arrives when the external push needs to give way to inward restoration. Think of it not as retreat, but as right use of energy. The most successful, fulfilled versions of ourselves aren't those who are always moving, they are the ones who understand when to be still. The ones who know that clarity doesn't come from overthinking, but from allowing the mind to soften, the breath to deepen, and the nervous system to settle like calm water after a storm. You, Leo, ruled by the sun, are a source of brightness to many. But even the sun rests each night below the horizon, not because it's weak, but because it follows a natural rhythm. You're being invited to honor that rhythm within your own body now. When we ignore the signals, fatigue that lingers, motivation that dips, sleep that doesn't quite restore, we're not just brushing aside discomfort, we're silencing a message from within. This week, instead of pushing through, what if you listened? Gentle practices will carry you far during this time. Start your mornings not with urgency, but with presence. Step outside and let sunlight warm your skin for just a few minutes. Breathe in deeply, inhale what is here, exhale what no longer serves. Let a cup of herbal tea remind you that even small rituals can be acts of love. Lemongrass to uplift, lavender to soothe, peppermint to refresh. These aren't luxuries. They're ways of speaking to the body in a language it understands. And food, too, becomes medicine when approached with care. This is a beautiful time for simple, grounding meals, whole grains, greens, warm broths. Not out of punishment or restriction, but out of reverence. Out of the understanding that how we eat reflects how we feel we deserve to be nourished. Consider this: what would shift if you treated each meal like a gift, instead of a task? There's also great power in movement, but not the high adrenaline kind. Try instead the kind that feels like poetry in motion, a walk at sunrise, gentle stretches, flowing breathwork. Let your body unwind, without needing to prove anything. In stillness, something else emerges: awareness. And with awareness comes release. In teachings passed down through generations, there is the simple idea that, when the mind is quiet, the body listens. It's in this stillness that deeper healing can happen, the kind that isn't always visible, but is always essential. Illness often arises not from what we do, but from what we hold on to. And healing, likewise, begins when we give ourselves permission to let go. You don't need to force anything this week. You don't need to be productive in the traditional sense. In fact, one of the bravest things you can do now is pause. To let your inner fire burn more gently, so it lasts longer. To remember that peace is not a place you go to, it's a state you allow. So if this speaks to your current experience, I invite you to say it with me, not just as a phrase, but as a vow. I care for my body with love and gratitude. Speak it, breathe into it, and live it, because that is how true strength is sustained. After the softness of tending to your body and reclaiming your calm, we naturally arrive at the heart where our connections, affections, and emotional truths live. This week, Leo, your relationships are calling for your presence, not your perfection. The dance between your inner world and the world of others becomes especially meaningful now, and the energy suggests that the people you encounter or reflect upon are not crossing your path by chance. They are here with a purpose, and perhaps more importantly, they are mirroring something alive inside you. When the Two of Cups and the Lovers appear together, the message is not just about romance, it's about resonance. These cards speak of mutual recognition, of energy that meets and balances rather than chases or escapes. There's a rare clarity in that kind of connection. It isn't chaotic. It's quietly powerful, the kind of moment where time seems to slow because your soul remembers something your mind can't quite explain. And whether that shows up as a new meeting or a renewal of something familiar, the deeper invitation is the same: to relate from a place of truth, not fear. That begins by asking yourself honestly, am I offering love from my whole heart, or from the fear of being alone? It's a vulnerable question, but it's a liberating one. Love that arises from fear tends to grasp, to control, to perform. Love that arises from wholeness, on the other hand, simply stands without demand, yet invites deeply. When you approach love from that space, what you create is not attachment, it's harmony. And harmony doesn't mean perfection, it means acceptance, even of the parts still in progress. This week, you may feel drawn toward people who awaken something dormant in you. Not because they complete you, but because they reflect the version of you that wants to come forward. That might be someone a stranger with familiar eyes, or an unexpected message that seems to arrive just when your heart softens. Or it may be someone you already know, but now see differently. And in that shift of seeing, a space opens up. A space to forgive. A space to speak gently. A space to try again, if that is what's called for. For those in relationships, the invitation is to return to presence. To notice where routine has replaced reverence. Love, like anything sacred, needs tending not out of obligation, but out of care. Can you remember what first drew you to them? What if you allowed yourself to see them again as if for the first time, without the weight of past projections? Real connection doesn't always come from dramatic change. Sometimes it comes from the smallest of gestures, eye contact held longer than usual, a word said with full attention, a moment of shared silence that feels like safety. In ancient teachings, there is a reminder that all relationships are teachers. The joyful ones remind us of the beauty we carry. The difficult ones reveal where we have yet to heal. And the rare ones, the ones that stir both joy and discomfort, are often the most transformational of all. They push us gently toward wholeness, even if they don't stay forever. So allow yourself to be open, Leo. Not recklessly open, but courageously open. There is a difference. Love is not a transaction, it's a transmission. And when it flows freely, when it's given and received with honesty and care, it becomes a form of freedom, not a cage. If you feel this movement in your life, if someone new has appeared, or an old connection is resurfacing in your awareness, trust that there is something here for you. Perhaps not a conclusion, but a lesson, a healing, a doorway into greater understanding. Repeat this with me, if it feels true for you. I am ready to give and receive true love. And let that readiness not be a chase, but a calm unfolding. Let love find you in your stillness. Let connection rise when you are most yourself. Because when you love from the heart, not the wound, you create something real. Something that lasts. As your heart begins to soften and expand from the recent awareness around love and connection, a new kind of silence enters, one that doesn't seek answers externally, but begins listening inward. This is the space where clarity is born, not from logic, but from presence. And Leo, right now, your inner world is awakening in ways that may feel subtle but deeply transformative. The alignment of the High Priestess and Judgment in your current energy speaks to a moment of soulful recognition. It's the quiet realization that you've been hearing whispers from within for a while now, and you're finally ready to follow them. There's something profound that happens when we stop chasing signs outside of ourselves and begin honoring the gentle pulse of knowing that lives beneath the surface. It might show up as a dream that lingers into your morning, or a feeling you can't quite explain, like a soft nudge asking you to pause before speaking, to walk down a different street, to reach out to someone at the exact right time. This isn't coincidence. It's not superstition. It's your natural intelligence awakening, the same intelligence that guides birds in migration, tides in their rhythm, and the breath in your lungs. Judgment, in its highest expression, is not about punishment or reward, it's about return. A return to the essence of who you are beneath the noise, beneath the roles, beneath the expectations. It asks, what are you being called back to? Not by obligation, but by truth. Often, this moment comes after you've shed something, an old identity, an outdated belief, a protective shell. Now, in that space you've cleared, something more honest can emerge. Not louder, but clearer. To support this shift, consider creating a simple yet powerful evening ritual. Before bed, take a moment to write one sentence in a journal. It doesn't need to be polished or poetic. It just needs to be real. Something you desire, something you're grateful for, something you're ready to release. This isn't about scripting your future, it's about making space for it. Writing is a mirror, it reflects what you're willing to name. And what you name, you bring into form. Another practice that deepens this unfolding is a ritual of receiving. This can be as simple as lighting a candle with intention, placing your hand over your heart, and quietly saying, I allow good things to come to me. Not because you've earned them, not because you've worked hard enough, but because you are willing to receive without resistance. There is a quiet power in softening your defenses long enough to let life give to you. So often, we block what we crave by thinking we must chase it. But when the mind quiets, when the body is at ease, the door opens without effort. In contemplative teachings, it is said that true awakening is not an escape, but a return. A return to the simplicity of breath, of presence, of choosing what is kind over what is urgent. The moment you choose to live with awareness, even in the smallest gesture, you begin to walk the path of transformation. And every time you do, you affirm that you are no longer asleep in your own life. So if you've been sensing that something is rising within you, an urge to express, to shift, to live more fully, trust that. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait until it makes perfect sense. Your intuition is not a puzzle to solve, it's a companion to trust. And right now, it's guiding you toward a version of yourself that's ready to lead, not from pride, but from presence. Say it now, softly if you must, firmly if you can, I am light. I receive the miracle life is offering me. Let those words settle like seeds. And then, let them grow. And now, dear Leo, as we bring this sacred space to a gentle close, I want you to pause just for a breath and feel the shift inside you. Not the kind that shouts or demands immediate change, but the quieter kind, the kind that moves like light through a window, soft but undeniable. You've just walked through a layered journey through clarity, alignment, stillness, connection, and awakening. And whether you realize it fully yet or not, something in you has already begun to rise. Because when you choose to slow down, listen inward, and act with mindful courage, you don't just wait for transformation, you become the transformation. You are no longer chasing the miracle, you are the one making space for it to land. You see, Leo, what is truly meant for you has never been something you had to fight for. You were born to shine, not to prove your light. The universe never needed you to hustle for your worth. It only asked that you remember it. And now, as the energy begins to align around you, the things you've long held in your heart, the ones you may have quietly wished for when no one was watching, are beginning to move toward you. But here's the truth, receiving those blessings is a choice. A gentle, repeated, deliberate act of saying yes. Yes to letting go of old stories. Yes to showing up for your life, even on the uncertain days. Yes to trust, even when you don't yet have the evidence. And that choice is not made once, it's made again and again, in small moments. In how you treat your body. In how you speak to yourself. In how you welcome love, how you pursue your purpose, and how you allow rest to be as sacred as effort. So let me ask you, honestly and without expectation, what will you choose to carry forward from this message? What resonated deep in your spirit today? Which practice or reflection do you feel called to try, not perfectly, but presently? Maybe it's taking that walk at sunrise instead of scrolling first thing in the morning. Maybe it's lighting a candle each night and writing one wish down in a notebook. Maybe it's pausing before reacting to someone you love, or gently forgiving yourself when the old fear creeps back in. Whatever it is, trust that it matters. These small, intentional steps are what rewire reality, not all at once, but steadily, beautifully. And now I want to hear from you. I truly do. What part of today's message landed deepest for you? What are you ready to receive? Leave a comment below with the words, "I am ready to receive the miracle." Let this be your way of aligning with the very energy we've been nurturing together in this space. If you found value, peace, or insight in today's video, I invite you to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who may also need this message. Every action of yours helps our family here at Eternal Mindfulness grow, not in numbers, but in purpose. It allows us to keep doing what we're doing, creating content that doesn't just predict life, but empowers it. From my heart to yours, thank you. Thank you for your time, your presence, and your willingness to walk this path with such depth and openness. And remember, your path is not about proving you're worthy of what you desire. It's about becoming available to it. When you truly believe in the magic of what's unfolding, you step into the frequency of that magic. You draw it closer. You become it. So may the next 3 days ahead be gentle and rich. May they unfold like early morning light, quiet but golden. May you feel your own heart opening wider than ever before, and may you meet your life with the fire and grace that only a Leo can carry. I'll see you again very soon. Until then, stay open, stay grounded, and above all stay aligned with the light that already lives inside you.